Dr. Caden Miles wasn't the type to follow the crowd. As a renowned ex-archaeologist, he thrived on discovery, on finding things that others didn't even believe existed. Most people were content studying the known and the understood, but for Caden, the mysteries of the universe were what made his heart race. That's why, when he was offered a mission to study the ancient ruins of Thalos 4, a forgotten planet at the far reaches of human space, he didn't hesitate. Thalos 4 wasn't a world anyone cared about. Once, thousands of years ago, it had been home to a thriving alien civilization, but now it was nothing more than a barren, silent rock. The Federation, which ruled most of human space, had long since abandoned any interest in the planet. To them, Thalos 4 was just another ancient ruin, a relic of a long-gone era with no value. They had no idea what Caden had come to suspect, that Thalos 4 was hiding something far more important than anyone could guess. The Federation had left the planet in its state of decay, its cities reduced to rubble, its skies empty of life. The sun barely touched the surface, casting long shadows over the cracked streets and broken buildings. But as Caden stood in front of the great archway of what seemed to be an old temple, a sense of anticipation filled him. This was where the mystery would begin. He had studied old data, ancient records of the alien species that had once lived here, and he was certain that the answers to some of the universe's greatest questions lay hidden beneath the surface. The dig had been difficult at first. The technology needed to even penetrate the planet's crust was delicate, and the ancient ruins had been sealed for centuries. Yet, after weeks of careful excavation, Caden finally found what he was searching for, a hidden chamber buried deep underground. It was a room unlike any he had ever seen, with walls covered in strange symbols, their meaning utterly foreign to him. At the center of the room was a small pedestal, upon which rested an intricate device that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. He carefully approached the pedestal, his gloves gently brushing the surface of the artifact. As his fingers made contact, a strange hum filled the air. The device, which appeared to be a holographic projector, activated in front of him, casting a shimmering light that formed a complex image. The projection seemed to swirl around him, showing images of alien cities, vast star systems, and cosmic events beyond human understanding. And then the voice came. Soft yet clear, as if the words had been waiting for millennia to be spoken. To those who come after, hear this warning. We, the HFY, have touched the edge of the universe's truth. We have seen the destruction that lies in the unknown, a force older than the stars themselves. It is coming for you. It has always been coming. Only those who understand its nature will survive. The message was fragmented, its language alien, yet strangely familiar. As the last of the light flickered out, Caden stood frozen, his mind racing. The HFY had been an ancient species, wiped out long before humanity had even left Earth. But this message, it wasn't just a record of their history. It was a warning, one that spoke of something bigger than any human conflict, something beyond even the galaxy itself. For a moment, Caden didn't know what to think. The Federation would likely dismiss this as mere superstition, another cryptic alien artifact without any true meaning. But something in the back of his mind told him that this wasn't just another relic to be cataloged and forgotten. This was important. A galactic force. Something we cannot understand, he muttered under his breath, staring at the now dark pedestal. His mind was flooded with questions. What did the message mean? What was this mysterious force the HFY had been so terrified of? And why had they left such a desperate warning for whoever came next? As he turned to leave the chamber, something unexpected happened. The ground beneath his feet trembled. The walls shuddered and a low rumble echoed through the ruins. At first, he thought it was a simple aftershock, a natural occurrence for a planet that had been dormant for so long. But then, a strange light filled the sky, a brilliant flash that cast an eerie glow over the landscape. It wasn't the sun. It wasn't a storm. It was something else, something far more dangerous. Caden's heart began to race. Was it a coincidence? Or was this the beginning of whatever the HFY had warned about? He quickly activated his communicator, reaching out to the small crew that had accompanied him to Thalos 4. His voice was steady, but his hands trembled as he spoke. "This is Dr. Miles. We need to prepare for something big. I think the Ixithari's warning might have been more than just a warning. Something is happening here. Get back to the ship. Now." As the tremors continued, Caden couldn't shake the feeling that the message he had uncovered wasn't just a relic of the past, it was a prophecy. A prophecy of something that had been waiting for humanity, something that was now coming to find them. And it was far more powerful and terrifying than anything humanity had ever faced before. The question remained, what was this force? And was humanity ready for it? Dr. Caden Miles was not prepared for what happened next. He had expected the Federation to be excited about his discovery on Thalos 4, to see it as a breakthrough in understanding an ancient alien species. He had hoped to share his findings, work alongside the best minds the Federation had, and perhaps uncover the answers to the universe's deepest question. Instead, he was met with cold, controlled silence. After returning to the Federation's research station on the nearby moon of Elysium, Caden presented his findings to a council of high-ranking officials. He had hoped for questions, curiosity, a willingness to explore the mysteries further. But as he laid out the details, the holographic message, the strange phenomena occurring on Thalos 4, and the potential power hinted at by the Ixithari, something in the atmosphere shifted. The room grew tense. The council, made up of Federation leaders and scientific experts, listened quietly at first. But soon, Caden noticed that their eyes weren't filled with wonder, they were filled with something else. Concern. Fear. "We've reviewed your data. You must understand that this discovery, these relics you've found, could change everything we know about the galaxy. If it's true, if this force the Ixithari warned about is real, the consequences could be catastrophic. You can't just go digging around in ancient ruins like this, Dr. Miles. You've disrupted something dangerous." Caden frowned. "But don't you see? This is humanity's chance to understand what the Ixithari left behind, to know what's coming. The warning is real. We need to be prepared." Ambassador Trione leaned forward, her gaze cold and calculating. "You misunderstand, Dr. Miles. It's not the danger you've uncovered that concerns us. It's the power that knowledge could give you. If word gets out about this, the entire galaxy could be thrown into chaos. Our fragile peace could crumble. We can't let this knowledge leak." Caden's heart sank. Something was wrong. This wasn't about safety. This was about control. Before he could respond, the doors to the conference room slid open, and a man entered. Commander Ryan, the Federation's head of security. His sharp eyes and military bearing were unmistakable. "Dr. Miles, I'm afraid you're going to have to cease your investigation immediately," Commander Ryan said, his tone cold, almost as if he'd been expecting this moment. "We've just received new orders from the highest authority. Hand over all your research. The Federation has decided that it's too dangerous to proceed." Caden's mind raced. He had been expecting some kind of oversight, some careful questioning. But this was a direct order to stop, to abandon everything he had worked for. Something wasn't adding up. "Why?" Caden demanded. "I'm trying to help. You saw the data. We could learn so much. Even we're not debating this," Ryan interrupted. "You have your orders. Any further investigation into the Ixithari artifacts is to be terminated. You will return to the capital immediately and surrender all findings." Caden's hands trembled as he grasped the tablet containing all his research. The sudden shift in the Federation's attitude felt like a gut punch. This wasn't about keeping humanity safe. This was about suppressing something they couldn't control. He stared at the tablet in his hands, the holographic message of the Ixithari still flickering in his mind. Was the Federation really that afraid of what the truth might reveal? Or was there something more sinister at play? That night, Caden didn't sleep. Instead, he returned to his quarters, poring over his data again, trying to make sense of the Federation's sudden reaction. There had to be something he was missing. Ass. He scrolled through the holographic projections of the Ixithari's message. A thought struck him. The warning was just one part of the message. There was also something else, something he had overlooked at first. The map. He zoomed in on the symbols and coordinates hidden in the background of the Exithari's projections. It wasn't just a warning about a galactic threat. It was a map leading to a network of dormant alien technology scattered across the galaxy. This was no coincidence. The Exithari had created this map for a reason. They had known that one day, someone would come across it. Caden's heart raced. This wasn't just about one artifact or one message. This was about an entire web of ancient advanced technology that could change everything. ASE studied the map. It became clear that this wasn't just a scientific breakthrough. This was the key to potentially altering the balance of power in the galaxy. The Federation had known this all along. They weren't worried about the threat the Exithari had warned about. They were worried about what humanity could do with this knowledge. The next day, Caden sought out Dr. Leandra Voss, a brilliant scientist and one of his closest colleagues, hoping she might have answers. They had worked together for years, and Caden trusted her more than anyone else. She was one of the few people who shared his passion for uncovering the unknown, for pushing boundaries and uncovering truths. Leandra was sitting in her lab when Caden arrived, her back turned to him as she analyzed data on a screen. He stepped inside, feeling the tension in the air. "You're not gonna like what I have to tell you," Caden said quietly. She turned around, her face unreadable. "What's going on, Caden?" "They're trying to shut me down," he said. "The Federation, they've ordered me to stop my research. They won't let me continue." Leandra's eyes flickered with something he couldn't quite place. Was it fear? Or was it something else? "I know," she said softly. Caden's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean, you know?" Leandra sighed and lowered her gaze. "I'm not who you think I am. I've been working with the Federation's covert faction. I didn't have a choice. They have plans for the Exia relics, Caden, plans you wouldn't understand. They want control of the technology, but it's not for the good of humanity. They want it for power. For themselves." Caden's world seemed to shatter in that moment. Leandra, the person he had trusted most, had been working against him all along. The Federation's control wasn't about safety, it was about domination. "Why, Leandra?" he asked, his voice shaking. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I had no choice," she whispered. "They're already watching me. If I try to back out now, they'll..." She broke off, her eyes filled with regret. Caden's mind was reeling. He had no choice but to make a decision. The Federation wanted the power for themselves, and Leandra's betrayal had opened his eyes to the true extent of the danger. He was caught in the middle of a battle he hadn't expected, facing the possibility of a galactic war over the relics, over the knowledge that could change everything. The choice was clear now: fight for the truth, or let the Federation control humanity's fate. The rebellion wasn't what Caden had imagined. It wasn't an army of soldiers or a unified group with a single goal. No, it was a loose coalition of individuals, each with their own stories, their own reasons for opposing the Federation. They'd gathered on a hidden station in the Outer Rim, far from the prying eyes of the Federation. Caden felt a strange mix of skepticism and relief as he entered the station's dimly lit meeting room. The rebels weren't exactly what he would have called a military force. There were no crisp uniforms or polished weapons. Instead, there were scattered tech experts, ex-soldiers, former diplomats, and a few who had once been part of the Federation but had grown disillusioned by its power plays. Each of them had their own personal stakes in the fight. The Federation's rise to dominance threatened them all in different ways. "They'll stop at nothing to control the relics," a former Federation strategist named Kira explained, her voice hoarse from years of underground operations. "They're already mobilizing, trying to gain full control over every scrap of alien technology we've discovered. If they succeed, it's not just us who will suffer, it's the entire galaxy." Caden nodded, understanding. He had seen firsthand how the Federation was willing to use its influence to suppress knowledge, to hide the truth from the masses. But now, the stakes were higher than he had ever imagined. The Federation didn't just want the knowledge for political leverage, they wanted the power to reshape the galaxy in their image. They all agreed on one thing: the Federation's agenda was dangerous. It could lead to the destruction of entire species, enslaving civilizations under humanity's aggressive rule. It was a future that Caden refused to let happen. The real turning point came when they unlocked another layer of the Exithari relics. It was late one evening when Caden was alone in a small lab, running simulations on the alien map. He had been poring over it for weeks, but something still didn't sit right with him. There were patterns, certain shapes within the coordinates that seemed to repeat, like they were calling out to him, begging him to understand. Then, as he adjusted the parameters one last time, a hidden message flashed on his screen, a message that made everything fall into place. It wasn't a warning anymore. It was a confession. The Exithari hadn't vanished. They hadn't been destroyed in some galactic war as he had believed. No, they had evolved. They had abandoned their physical forms long ago, evolving into a collective consciousness that spanned the galaxy. They had spread their consciousness across countless systems, each individual part of the collective living as a fragment of a greater whole. The Exithari were no longer beings with bodies, they were thoughts, memories, ideas, existing in every corner of the galaxy. Their knowledge was embedded in the very fabric of space itself, woven into the stars, the planets, and the very essence of existence. But there was more. The collective consciousness of the Exithari had become aware of humanity's rise. It had watched the human species grow, evolve, and expand across the galaxy. And now, it saw humanity as a threat. The Exithari didn't just see humanity as another species. To them, humans represented a force of instability, a force that could disrupt the balance of the galaxy. The aggression, the unpredictability, the uncontrollable nature of humanity, it was a virus to the Exithari, a threat to the collective peace they had spent eons maintaining. If humanity wasn't stopped, it would either be absorbed into the collective or, worse, eradicated as a disruption to the universal harmony. Caden felt his breath catch in his throat. The Federation wasn't the true enemy. The real danger was far greater, far more incomprehensible. It was the Exithari's consciousness, a collective intelligence so vast and powerful that no human mind could truly understand it. Caden spent the next few days in a daze, his mind racing. The truth was too much to grasp all at once. He had thought he was fighting against a government that was willing to use the alien knowledge for its own gain, but now he realized that he wasn't just fighting for humanity's survival. He was fighting for humanity's very existence. The Exithari were a collective intelligence and entity without physical form, beyond the laws of biology and physics. They could manipulate minds, rewrite memories, and even control technology from a distance. There was no way to fight them with guns or ships. This was a war of minds, of will, and Caden wasn't sure humanity was ready for it. The rebels had offered their support, but even they didn't fully understand what they were up against. The threat wasn't just the Federation, it was the Exithari's mind, vast and unknowable. The question was, could humanity fight against such an entity, or was it doomed to be absorbed into the collective consciousness? Caden's mind kept returning to one agonizing question. Should humanity risk everything to fight against an intelligence that could control them, or was survival, in servitude, the only path to ensuring the species' continuation? If they fought, they might lose everything. If they surrendered, they might live, but what would humanity become? Was the fight for freedom worth the sacrifice? Was it worth fighting for the right to make mistakes, to learn, to grow, when the alternative might be to exist in peace, but at the cost of their individuality? Caden knew the Exithari believed humanity's aggression could lead to its downfall. And perhaps they were right. After all, humanity's history was full of war, greed, and destruction. But wasn't there also hope? Wasn't there the potential for growth, for compassion, for understanding? His own thoughts wavered. He had always believed in the potential of humanity to rise above its flaws, to learn from its mistakes. But as he thought of the vast power of the Exithari, he began to question whether humanity was truly ready for the responsibility that came with knowledge and power on such a scale. He couldn't make the decision alone. The fate of the entire galaxy rested on what choice humanity would make. Would they take the risk of fighting the Exithari's consciousness, knowing they might never stand a chance? Or would they submit, ensuring their survival but at the cost of everything that made them human? Caden had to make a choice. And it was a choice that could determine the fate of every living being in the galaxy. But the clock was ticking, and soon it might be too late to turn back. The plan was simple, too simple, perhaps. Infiltrate the Federation's main stronghold, prevent them from activating the alien technology, and hope they could stop the oncoming disaster. But Kate and Miles knew, deep down, that nothing about this mission would go as expected. The stakes were too high, and the forces they were up against were beyond anything they had ever faced. The rebels, now united under Caden's leadership, had spent days preparing. The Federation stronghold, located on the military moon of Valsir 7, was heavily guarded. But they had no choice. The Federation had already begun to initiate the activation sequence for the alien technology they had stolen from the Exithari ruins. If they succeeded, humanity would gain unimaginable power, but at the cost of something far more dangerous: total control over every sentient species in the galaxy. Caden couldn't allow that. It would be the end of true freedom, the end of individuality, the end of everything that made humanity unique. They had to stop it. But he also had another, more pressing reason for being here. He couldn't shake the feeling that humanity was playing into something far bigger than even the Federation's thirst for power. As the rebels infiltrated the stronghold, Caden felt a strange sense of déjà vu. It was as if the entire mission, the whole struggle against the Federation, had already been written out for him. The tension in the air was suffocating, but as they moved through the corridors, Caden couldn't escape the nagging sensation that something was off. They reached the central control room, where the alien technology was housed. The massive, glowing core of the relic hummed ominously, its energy radiating through the chamber. The Federation soldiers were in place, preparing to initiate the final sequence. Caden and his group made their move. They disabled the security systems, neutralized the guards, and took control of the room. The next steps should have been clear: shut down the system, destroy the relics, and ensure no one could activate them. But as Caden's hand hovered over the control panel, a thought struck him. Something deep within him warned that this wasn't enough. The alien consciousness was no longer just a warning, it was something far more intimate. Without thinking, Caden interfaced with the relics, hoping to find a way to communicate directly with the Exithari consciousness. The moment his mind touched the alien technology, a rush of sensations flooded his mind. Images, thoughts, emotions all at once. His heartbeat quickened, and he stumbled back, overwhelmed by the sheer weight of it all. Then, the truth hit him like a physical blow. The Exithari consciousness had already been influencing humanity for longer than anyone could have realized. It wasn't just a force that had watched humanity from the fringes of the galaxy, it had been weaving itself into the fabric of human existence for centuries. Dreams, subconscious whispers, moments of inexplicable inspiration, these had all been the work of the Exithari, guiding humanity, nudging it toward a specific conclusion. The Federation wasn't the true antagonist. The war for control, the rebellion, even the fear Caden had felt about the technology, it was all part of a much grander design. The Exithari had been testing humanity all along. The Federation was merely a puppet, manipulated by the very entity it sought to control. Humanity wasn't being attacked. It was being tested. The Exithari's consciousness had been watching to see if humanity could evolve into a cooperative species, capable of joining their collective without destroying itself in the process. The war over the relics? A distraction, an experiment to see if humanity could come together for the greater good, to recognize that survival in unity was the only path forward. Caden's mind swirled. What did this mean for humanity? Was it already too late to resist? Could they ever escape the influence of this far-reaching intelligence? The truth was devastating. Humanity wasn't free. It never had been. The collective consciousness of the Exithari had already begun to shape their choices, their destiny. As the revelation sank in, the weight of the decision before him became unbearable. Caden could shut everything down, destroy the alien technology, and deny the Exithari the chance to merge with humanity. But at what cost? Humanity would continue as it always had, divided, selfish, constantly on the brink of self-destruction. The Exithari had offered humanity a path to unity, to peace. But the price was high, the loss of individuality, the surrender of human freedom in exchange for collective harmony. Caden knew what he had to do. There was no easy way to stop this. The only choice left was to offer himself as the first human to be integrated into the Xithari consciousness. It was the only way to ensure humanity's survival by merging with the collective, becoming one with the sentient network. It was the only way to truly understand the Xithari and what they had hoped for humanity. "I'll do it," Caden said, his voice steady despite the storm raging inside him. "I'll be the first. I'll merge with them." Kira, the leader of the rebels, stepped forward, her face filled with concern. "Caden, no. You can't do this. We can fight. We can stop them. Don't sacrifice yourself." But Caden knew it was the only way. The Federation had been wrong, yes. But humanity, in all its aggression and brilliance, had never been ready to face the kind of peace the Xithari offered. They needed time to evolve, to understand the cost of their survival. "I'm doing this for all of us," Caden replied quietly, looking at his friends one last time. "I'm doing this so humanity doesn't repeat the mistakes of the past. This is the only way forward." Caden's final moments were surreal. He lay in the center of the alien technology, his mind opening up to the vastness of the Xithari consciousness. He felt himself becoming one with it, his individuality slowly fading as the collective presence enveloped him. The last thing he thought before everything blurred into unity was the question that haunted him: was it worth it? As the transformation began, humanity's path was set. The rebellious humans, the ones who had fought so hard for their independence, were no longer the same. They had become part of the greater whole, joining the Xithari collective as they ventured out into the stars. The final scene showed a new generation of humans, now part of the collective, exploring strange worlds, encountering new species, and spreading the influence of the Xithari's peaceful unity. But as they looked at the stars, the lingering question remained: what does it mean to be human now? The answer, perhaps, was lost. But humanity had survived. And perhaps that was all that mattered.